Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Buffalo Bills podcast on YouTube, brought to you by me, Pat Rosa, where I talk all about the Buffalo Bills, among other things. Before we get into it, please like, comment, and subscribe so that you can get awesome Bills content throughout the year as we go forward into the draft and the schedule and really get started on the 2023 season. So the draft ended yesterday, and I thought for the Bills it was a really good draft that they really hit on a lot of positions they should have, and maybe they didn't really get to a lot of the positions they could have gotten to, but they had only six picks and they lost one on the first day. So at the same time, it's really tough. It's really tough during the draft to project or predict what is going to happen and how it's going to happen. But overall, I thought they had a good draft. And their first two picks were, I thought, really, really great. And their third pick as well. I thought, the combination of an offensive lineman, of a playmaker, and a linebacker, I thought that was going to be their first couple of picks in the draft. So, I thought that was really great for them. They obviously traded up in the first round, as we all know, to get in front of the Cowboys pick because they thought they would pick a tight end, which they ultimately didn't do. But at the same time, the Bills were afraid of that, so they traded up two picks to pick the best player available on their board at that particular time, and that was to select the tight end, the tight end Dalton Kincaid. I can never remember that name. Dawson Knox, Dalton Kincaid, and that will drive me crazy this season. But the Dalton Kincaid was the pick for the Bills at that spot, and I thought it was interesting because obviously we from picks 20 to 24 there was a run on receivers from Zay Flowers to Jordan Addison, and I thought the Bills would get at least one of them, and they obviously didn't because they didn't have a shot at them. So they knew they wanted a playmaker in the draft, and I believe they got one in Dalton, not Dalton Kincaid. And watching his film and highlights, he has really good hands, strong hands. He's actually very athletic. He can make a lot of great catches. He runs great routes. And Brandon Beane said he could be a slot receiver in a mold of Cole Beasley, so he could pick up a lot of those 5 to 6 yard slants or hitches, and get those critical first downs in a game. In a mold of maybe a Travis Kelsey he's been compared to, which let's not go there yet. But obviously, you will obviously you know the Bills will love if he turns out that way, and it's obviously a shift in the foundation of their offense. I think for the longest time they've been looking for a two tight end set, with Dawson Knox, and really have the defense guessing on the other side. And I think they got that with the Kennard pick. I really do. I think he's going to be a really good player. It could take a little time. I don't, but I expect him to be there on day one and making plays with Dawson Knox. This is not to replace Dawson Knox. I think they'll have similar stats, and they'll make they'll make plays maybe in the same game. Maybe one will have a good game, and in another game they'll the other Kennard will have a good game. So, but either way, I think it's a good 1-2 punch. It gives Josh Allen another weapon, which is really great. And then in the second round, they went offensive line, which is really great, and they got O'Cyrus Torrence out of Florida, and he's a big body guy. He's like maybe 6'4", 300 some odd pounds, and he hasn't given up a sack at all in his college career, and he just fills a need for the Bills. That toughness, that finesse need that they really desperately that the need right now. And I think he's going to be a really good player. And those first two picks, I think they hit it out of the park. With a playmaker and an offensive lineman that could start from day one or could start in season, depending on how well he does in training camp, and how he assumes that role. But I think he's going to be a really good player and a really good contributor on that offensive line. Overall, I think the offensive line has improved. Obviously, they signed David Andrews, Connor McGovern, and now they picked Cyrus Torrance, will who could start from day one for the Bills, and that is a smart pick. I think he was, I think the Bills really saw that, and he was high on their board because he could have been a first round pick, but he wasn't, and the Bills took him at that spot, which I thought was very, very smart. So those first two picks are just going to be really important for them, and going to be they're going to play a role this season for the Bills. And then their third round pick was interesting. I knew they were gonna pick a linebacker because that is a need there. It really, really is. And they picked Dorian Williams, yeah, out of Tulane, and he's a tackling machine. He really is. He's going to make plays. He gets a little lost in when the other team runs the ball and gets out blocked a little bit. And Brandon B wants him on special teams, which I'm kind of confused by. I'm kind of confused what they're going to do at linebacker, which is not a big deal, but at the same time, you would hope for more answers in the draft. But I think if he impresses during training camp, he has a shot at the starting middle linebacker job. But obviously, they want to take it along slowly. But I think that's a good pick. Picking a linebacker was important, and I'm fine with that. So overall, their first three picks did fill a need for the Bills. So, we'll see where that goes. Obviously, we don't know yet how good these players do, but, they definitely filled a need. I think the first three picks will play a role on the team this season. And then they also picked a receiver, Justin Shorter, this tall guy, good hands, good separation too. I don't know if he's going to contribute this season. He could be a practice squad, or he could start, maybe be a fourth or fifth guy. We'll see how he does in training camp, but he could be a good player. He is tall, Justin Shorter, like I said. Interesting name, shorter but tall. But at the same time, I think he could be a good receiver later on as he develops more. And then they traded back picks. They actually have 10 picks next year, with that extra pick that they could get with Jermaine Edmonds. So they had no picks this year, but next year they could have 10 picks, which could be interesting with trades coming down the line and all that. So that's great. And they also picked two players in the seventh round: Nick Broker and Alex Austin, cornerback Alex Austin, and Nick Broker, an offensive lineman. So that could be good depth pieces for the Bills there. So overall, I mean, I give the Bills big pluses for doing what they did, filling in needs, filling in depth pieces, especially on the offensive line, because we all knew they needed that last season. especially toward the end of last season. The only thing they didn't pick up in this draft, and Brandon Beane said this in his press conference, is a defensive tackle. They just couldn't figure out how to get it. It just wasn't on their board. It just didn't fit, and they do have guys all on 1 year commitments on that defensive line, which is okay. I mean, I truly believe they're going to sign back a lot of those guys next offseason, so it's not too big of a need, especially now. I mean, it's this season, but it's definitely a need coming up next year, especially if they lose Ed Oliver. So, it's not a big need now. It would have been great if they would have gotten a defensive tackle, but it's practically okay. There are free agents out there that will fill that need for this season. So, um, overall, I think the draft was a success. I think they got a playmaker for Josh Allen, which is what they needed. Yes, they didn't get one of the receivers, but they did get the next level of a tight end that could be a really good receiver. Yes, he's a tight end, but he's also a receiver that could catch the ball in space and provide an impact, and an offensive lineman, which will fill a need on the offensive line. So, really good draft, and I hope it works out for the Bills. We'll see this season. You really don't know how well they'll do in the draft until they get on the field in September and hopefully make plays. So we will see where that goes. Until next time, I'll probably be out with the schedule coming up in a couple weeks. So stay tuned for that. But please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and you'll get awesome Bills content. So until next time, go Bills.